Hello, beautiful souls. How are you today? I am joined with two of my very, very good friends, crew members, soul family, Krista and Shug, and I'm going to let them introduce themselves. But today's topic is about our Sedona ceremonies, Grand Canyon. It was divinely led, and we're just going to discuss kind of how it came about and what it really meant to each and every one of us. So, Krista, introduce yourself.
Hi, soul family. My name is Krista. It's a pleasure to be here with y'all. This is my first time doing any kind of video, so if I appear a little nervous, that's okay. I'm just working through the fears like the rest of us. So it's just an honor to be here, and I'm looking forward to see what information we have to share today.
Great. And Shug?
Yeah, my name is Shug, and I was part of the trip and just part of this soul family, probably about a good month and a half, 2 months now. And it's been a very, very cool time. It's been a very active time, and definitely looking forward to getting into this and just see where it goes.
Okay. So Krista reached out to me. I had to look back at my text messages. We made the group on April 24th, so somewhere just prior to that. She had some download information come through, and I'm going to ask Krista to share that information with us now.
Yeah, so I'll try my best to articulate the experience I had. So, like a lot of us over the past year, 2 years, I'll speak for myself. I've really been working on trying to connect with the I am presence, right? The soul essence of who Krista is as a light being, not just as a human, but who I am as that eternal source, right? And I've been, like a lot of us, just going through some difficult times and really spending the past year and a half learning and studying and discerning and seeing what resonates and seeing what doesn't. And really, one of my dear friends owns a shop here called Elevated by Claudine. She started doing Ascended Master ceremonies about a year ago. And really, they're nothing formalized, right? So there's no leader to it. There's no set schedule or program. Really, it's just a chance for us to go as individuals, as sovereign beings, to sit down around a fire, have some singing bowls going, some different meditations. It's really just an opportunity for me to connect with that source, with that I am presence. So as time has been going on, I live in Arizona, and the energy is just very intense here for me. I can go up to up north, which I do frequently, and I get downloads and I get information and I get clearing, and I come back and I let it integrate. And a couple of weeks ago, I just kept getting this message, go up north, see who wants to join you. I am a very introverted person. This has been a very lonely journey. I am the only person that I know like me until now, and I have trust issues. So reaching out to people I don't know but share like-minded stories and sense of self, and just really the ability to have honest conversations is something I'd been greatly lacking and missing. And so my guides told me, they were like, well, if you are too, if you're lonely, there may be others out there that are like yourself. So I just said, you know what, I do it. So I sent a message to you, Nicole, and didn't know how it was going to go. And we just picked it up and went from there.
Yeah. And so when Krista reached out to me and relayed the download that came through to her, she actually just related some things that I didn't know at the time. But I had already done one ceremony, which was the urge, the inclination to do it came from Maggie by way of Bryce, and it was to honor female, like divine feminine warriors. And so we did that right after Easter. And so it was the first time I had done anything like that. And it was very powerful, and very significant, even though it was very low key. That's the key for me, is that there's not a leader. It's very individual process. And it's just whatever it means to you. But in reality, it means so much to the Ascendant Masters, that we're giving love and thankfulness and gratitude for all that they share with us, and all that they help lead and guide us through, right? And so I had just come out of that, and Krista messaged me about this, and not coincidentally, there were some other people going to Sedona that were going to be doing something for the 5/5 portal. And so it was kind of in the back of my mind, but I hadn't even spoken it to anybody. And when Krista messaged me, and I was like, oh yeah, this is another sign from the divine. So I just put it out there and said, check with your higher self in the group. If this seems like something that you need to be there, like we're going to plan on being there for the 5/5 weekend. So I'll put that out there, and Shug and his beautiful wife, they said yes, that they would join in. So Shug, tell us how that kind of came about. How was your decision process to join in?
Okay. Well, thank you. Thank you very much. It's good to hear you talk so much, Krista. Usually it's the introverts, right?
Yeah.
I know.
Which is awesome. Awesome. It's good. It's good to see that side of you. So for me, in my part, like basically this was like, comes at a point in my journey where I've really been very trusting in terms of like, what comes to me in terms of opportunities, in terms of invitations and things like that. I tend to just move circumspectly, even though I think before my light went on, so to speak, or cognizantly aware of it, I was a very impulsive, very just going. And so I've learned to be very, very, a lot more careful, a lot more judicious, use discernment. So having been a part of the group as I had, the crew, when it came, my first instinct was go. It's just, I got the invitation and it was go. So I pulled back and I, just wanted to, do some meditation on that and prayer, and just really kind of ask myself, like, yeah, of course I want to go, because that was just the first instinct. Yeah, this is obviously divine. I didn't ask for it. But I think what was cool was just like, sort of like when I stilled myself, what kept coming to me was basically, go to find out what it is. I really didn't even know, to be honest with you. And so we went. My wife Jan, thank you for the kind words. I feel very much the same.
Yeah.
We got in, we went. And so for me, generally, it's always about, or the way that it works for me, it's always like on the heart level, definitely in the personal sense. So meeting you, sharing the space with you. For me, that's just how I work. And for me, that was just everything sort of fell into place. And we saw the reactions, of, the genuineness, right? Like we don't see with my family and things like that. And I have a beautiful family. I'm very blessed that way. They're all pretty in tune, to varying degrees, and I love them so much, but this was special. And so there was just like signs along the way. And so that was my initial like kind of reaction, and which led me to go. And I kind of went a little into it, which was definitely the heart level and sharing the space and having that confirmation that can only come in that way, for me at least.
Yeah. And that's why a long time ago, I started calling this a faith journey, because, the downloads come in, it's totally divine. And while I kind of independently confirm with other crew members, I have to have the faith, take the step to go down the path. And you can get all the downloads you want, but if you don't act upon them, and the only way to fully embody it and act upon it is to have faith that source and your guides are acting in your highest and best good. And so I've had several faith journeys, and they've always been in my highest and best good. But this is definitely something that I haven't done before, where I put it out there and then people gathered, and it was just organic. It was just very much what I needed it to be, but it was also what you needed it to be. And on everyone's individual level, very different, but very, I think, very profound, you know. So the way that it came together in itself, it was very beautiful. And I was just so inspired. And then right after that, I started getting the feeling that it was, again, not going to be like a, like, come see Nicole talk about this ceremony. Like, it's not a Nicole thing. It's an individual thing, and we come together and just share the space, right? And so I also got that it was a very, very important to the ascendant masters, to the angels, to the archangels, to source creator. Everyone was very excited that we were going to be doing this. And in preparation for it, I had to cut the comments off in my room so that we were, you know, that's what source does to me. Like, I don't take rest very often. And so when I don't get the cue to sit down and take a rest, he'll just be like, all right, you're not doing anything. Like, he'll give me waves of nausea or a migraine or something, you know, like, okay, you're going to get an upgrade today and you're not going to be able to do anything. But this time it came through as a message, like, you're going to turn the comments off and you're going to rest because you got a big event coming up in Sedona. And so without any concrete anything, solely on faith, we just knew that it was going to be special and magical. And so we gathered on the Friday, and we had planned to have another burnt food offering for our ascendant masters, our guides, whomever. And of course it's all vegetarian, and but it's what it meant for us, right? And so Shug, tell me about your bag of goodies that you bought for the offering.
For me, I've never done this before. So the first thing I did was just kind of leave my mind blank until we got to the actual, to the store. And I just went with everything that had been coming to me in my journey in terms of like what has been appealing to me, in terms of like foods and vegetables, and which ones are sort of becoming staples, which ones are, I'm getting more. I do love to cook. So which ones are the most inspirational to me, so mushrooms were on there, eggplant, mangoes, which my girls love, and we all love. Shout out to the mother-in-law who can really pick them. And I think there was like a zucchini in there, which
there was
cauliflower,
ginger. Wasn't there ginger root?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Also too, yeah, kind of like maybe a sweet savory offer, like I figured some ginger would be nice, definitely. Brussels sprouts, those are definitely a staple for us. But
yeah. And then I had some coffee beans and some fruit and a little bit of alcohol. And then Krista, what did you provide?
I brought some fruit and some herbs and some mushrooms.
Yeah. And so Shug and I were sitting with our back to the sky, and the ladies were along the long couch. And at one point I was like, why are you guys all looking like that? And they said, did you see that light that just went by? So tell us about that, Krista.
Yeah, so it was beautiful. So I'm a starseed at heart. So most of the time my neck is up like this. If the stars are out, I'm looking. And I was just sitting there on the couch with my daughter and your wife, and a light just went right across the sky. And I'm not sure what it was, but it was there, and then it wasn't. It was very fast. It was very quick. But being an energy being, I can feel the energies around us, and that area was just lit up that night. It was just lit up with activity. It was beautiful.
Yeah. So after that, I just started taking pictures. Now I get pictures of crafts just by taking pictures of the night sky and then looking at it later. I don't necessarily see it with my naked eye, but I will often catch it on the camera. And I did. So, and I'll have that in the video for you guys to see later on. When I was able to look at it, I'm like, oh, look at that long silver ship. And I could feel the energy, but to be honest, the energy that came through when I had done the ceremony here right after Easter, it was so much energy. Like I knew that there were ascended masters all around me, and like that's a profound energy that I felt. And there were so many. I couldn't decipher who was what, and it was kind of similar to that. You know, I think Shug asked me at one time, "Are you okay?" And I had some tears fall, but I was just feeling the energy. I was extremely grateful. That was the main emotion that I had. Happy and joyous and excited, but extremely grateful to just be there in that moment with you guys, and being able to meet you face to face. And again, having that one-on-one, you know, where people say all the time, when you get an idea of someone and you know who they are watching a bunch of videos, but you really know who they are whenever you meet them face to face. And I think that was just very, very profound for me. I enjoyed it so much to be able to put my arms around you guys and give you hugs.
Mhm.
So that was the first night. That was the burnt offering and the Ascendant Master ceremony. And then the next day we took off on a road trip to the South Rim of the Grand Canyon. And it was like a 2-ish hour drive up there. Totally beautiful. And it wasn't long after we were there, and the energies were just spiking everywhere. But you guys want to tell your stories about how you felt, because I was kind of in my own energetic mind at that time. Shug, tell me about your Grand Canyon experience.
If you don't mind, I'd kind of like to go back a little bit, if that's okay,
Yeah,
to that
yeah.
moment. Yeah, to when we were sitting around the fire. What caught me was like an extension of what I was saying initially, like meeting you guys for the first time, you know, sharing the hug, right? And I you know, obviously it's cliche because we're on a fire, but it was very warm. That's what I felt more than anything. And the low key sort of like the way that you operate, Nicole, I feel like is very conducive to like a personality like mine, because you just leave it open and you just allow things to happen as they are intended to, right? Which is very from the heart, right? From our essential being, our inmost. And it was, I was just like, I was kind of just like, just sitting there and just like marveling kind of at the familial vibe,
Mhm.
right? Which really, right, like I mean it's hard to duplicate that, right? You really can't do that, you can't force that. And so yeah, so that's what that, you know, it just was that for me, like very sort of it's a confirmation kind of thing of like my initial like circumspect like decision making process. And so waking the next morning was like another step toward that. So as we were driving right there, uh, it was an all now moment stuff, which is, you know, I have a very fast mind sometimes. Comes out before, you know, sometimes I speak things forth before I'm thinking them. Somehow I always don't have the best filter that way.
Right.
But yeah, so in that now moment kind of right realm, right, and then like getting there and then like meeting up and then getting to actually see it for the first time. That was my first time. Was really, I mean, everybody can tell you about it. I'm sure, you know, anybody who's seen it knows exactly what I'm talking about. But the difference is sort of the intention for which we were going. And that gave it a whole new thing. And when you were up there doing your thing and Kristen was over there, and it's kind of interesting the way that worked out. I kind of was just trying to feel my way in and what my purpose was there. And that's what I did. And so I just started doing what I do. And that brings me to like, I had my eyes closed at one point, and when I opened them up, boom, right on that little entryway, the entry point. So it was awesome to hear you and Krista both talking about it when we were wrapping up. And it was like, wow, you know, and I did get a chance to peek back once, you know, to look at Jan, and I did see you. And you know, it's all about intention, right? Like intention and where your heart's at, and what I felt was all good, you know, and selfless.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Krista?
Deep as the Grand Canyon.
Yeah, yeah. So, well, a lot of it is intuitively and with just a little bit of research. I honestly feel there's a lot beneath the Grand Canyon and within the inner earth of the Grand Canyon, the caverns. I believe that there's a lot in there, and I just had this calling, and part of the call to go up there was an effort to release some of that information and release some of that negative energy and help that area reattach to the positive earth timelines and release some of that negative and that was for me to do, um, and it was a beautiful experience for me. I felt it very powerfully. I felt it on a very soul level. Again, none of us really talked about the individual reasons why we were going there. It was just something that we just kind of felt drawn to do. And I did my meditation and my envisioning, and my daughter was there, and she kind of got to watch me go through the process. And so now I'm bringing my children into it and helping them see the beauty and start to learn to question things. And it was just a very powerful experience on a soul level for me. And a lot has changed since I've come back.
Yeah. Yeah, we didn't really speak specifics. Like I said, it's a very organic experience, and it's not for, I don't decide for anyone what that is going to look like.
Right.
It is an individual journey, and we are just sharing that time and that space together. And so I definitely felt called there to release a lot of trapped souls and a lot of negative energy, and disconnect from negative energy and reconnect to the positive energy. And so that is what I was doing. And it was like, the Grand Canyon is this icon, this beacon for the United States. People from all over the world come to see the Grand Canyon. And there's a lot of energy there. There's a lot of different people there. And in that moment, there was a ton of people around us. But I don't remember any of them, but you guys. But that's like that timeline shift almost, where the focus was to put my energy and my effort toward releasing that and healing that land, and removing some of the trauma from that land. And even if I wasn't able to release everything in totality, I wanted to be able to do something on a soul level that was really important to me. And so, yeah, I felt this huge release of energy, from the area. And as soon as I really was able to focus down in, I saw that cave, that cavern like door area. We all focused on it. And I do believe that there's a lot of history there that has been lied about. A lot of things that we should know have been covered up. And so I really want the truth to come out, whatever the truth is, even if it's hard to hear. We all deserve to know it, right? And so it was just very profound. Like the area itself is so majestic. It's so huge. And you can see forever, and so I just really sent my energy out as far as it would go, with the intention of clearing and healing. And so I think right after that, we were all just like, let's eat.
As so often is the case, right? When you extend yourself, and like that's like one of the things. It's like when you're describing the Grand Canyon, it's almost like the world that we like learn to live in, right? Like we can go there and we can view the glory and behold it. Like I mean, it's something. I mean, there's nothing like it, like right, but there's so much we don't know about it. And that was right. It's always about like you mentioned history and that right. I think at the heart of everybody who has come across this community is that the catalyst seems to be about the truth and just seeking it, right? Like I don't mind being wrong as long as it leads me to the truth. Like I don't mind having made bet on the wrong pony, so to speak, in certain cases. What does it matter if I wind up at the truth? And so that's what I was feeling, definitely. Like, and that part of it was like history, right? History, the historical context of like what we haven't been given, right, across the board. But this was like sort of like the perfect like metaphor for that, right? looking at the Grand Canyon and taking that step of faith that you talk about, which very few people in the community talk about, is faith. We did discuss that, but like, right, I don't even know really why I'm there, to be frank.
Right.
But part of it was just that the truth would be revealed. And then the other part was sort of a supportive role for whatever I could provide, right? For those who are there and in full knowledge of what they're there to do and the purpose and calling. So that's kind of like what my individual experience was. Jan felt very much like Krista, and you guys, like, super strong, overwhelming energy, all of that. And like, for me, it's just like this bigger thing in my, like, that I can't yet see. It's like shapeless, right? With some buzzwords there, like the stuff that has been hidden and right, uncovered up. And yeah. So anyways, yeah, that was my thing.
Yeah, I think that it's I think that the energies are a bit of a catalyst in itself, right? So it's some of that energy works as a confirmation as to why you even went on the trip. Like if you went on the trip and you arrived and you didn't feel anything, there really wasn't a connection or whatever, you'd be like, well, I'm not really sure why I came here. But that was never the case. Like from the beginning to the very end, it was profoundly obvious that we all needed to be there. And that it was very, very important that we just follow our soul, follow our heart, and see it through, whatever that looked like for each of us.
That's precisely the environment that you facilitate, which I really appreciate. Definitely. Like, that's not flattery, that's actuality, you know what I mean? And yeah.
Well, and
to add to that,
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. Krista had said before, I didn't ever hear her say that before, but it was like, it should be whatever it's supposed to be for each other. And my meditation right before you guys arrived was that this was not going to be a Nicole event. This is definitely an individual event. Like whatever came into your mind, your heart, your soul that you wanted to share, if someone wanted to speak in light language or like whatever it was, that was how it was supposed to be. It was supposed to be an opportunity where the space was so sacred and yet so safe and protected that whatever wanted to come up and through could. And I don't find that you get that if there's an itinerary of we're going to do this at this time and we're going to do this at this time, because that's a completely different level of pressure. And so when you just allow yourself to just be and just feel the energy, and it's very, very organic and it's very authentic. And I think that is, that's how I've been ever since I've been on this journey. So right or wrong, like you said, when you've lied to your whole life and you go in search of truth, for me, even if I don't like the truth, I can respect it, right? There's a lot of things that I found out that I know to be true that I don't necessarily wanted to ever have happened, but I can come to terms with the truth because it's the truth, right? It's not a version of the truth. The truth doesn't have versions. That's lies. So yeah, Krista, I'm sorry, I kept cutting you off.
No, that's okay. No, I just, a couple of things came to me when the two of you were speaking. Is one is the ability, Nicole, that you provided us the space, right, to let it be our journey while we were there. And then secondly is, the Grand Canyon, for me, it was really a metaphor of my own spiritual journey, in that going there, I see what I believe to be truth, but it's not all truth, right? And there's dark and there's light, right? And it's surface level, but as I continue to dig deeper, there's more and more is revealed. And I may not like the truth that I see, right? But as long as I have that understanding, then I know what to work with. Then I can actually start to work on those shadow aspects of myself that are no longer serving me, that will help me get to the next stage of my development. So for me, it wasn't just releasing the negative energies up at the Grand Canyon, but it's also releasing the negative energies within myself, and the healing and the trauma release that my own soul essence needs in order for me to go to that next step in my ascension, my path, right? And the work that I need to do. So it was twofold, right? So it was like the external clearing, but also for me on a soul level, it was very much that internal clearing and that internal uncovering and that desire to just know the truth, no matter what that is, right?
Yeah.
Because then I know what I can work with.
Well, it's
Yeah.
paradoxical in nature, right? Like as you give, you receive. That's part of it,
Right.
right? So you go there, right? It's like visiting some. Have you guys ever visited somebody in the hospital and you're going there for them and you're getting yourself all prayed up or whatever, to go, and they end up lifting you somehow because
Mhm.
you know what I mean? Like it's one of the most amazing things that I've seen. That, of course, that isn't always the case, but the point is, it's a paradoxical beauty, right? Like this is what we do, right? In seeking the truth, you're going to get your faults, your flaws, right? Your egos pointed out. That's the
Mhm.
whole point, though. There's a release
Yep.
in there, right? So we tense up because we don't want that ego does not want to die. It goes against everything that it is, and that, but in releasing ourselves to that, making ourselves open and vulnerable, right? That's like a big word for me because, right, we don't like to be vulnerable. We don't, that's why we're afraid to trust, right? And it's tough, right? But when we do, we find our strength in vulnerability. Again, a paradox, but yeah, sorry. I want to keep going.
That was great.
Yeah, no, it's beautiful. It's beautiful. And it's if you haven't taken that step, whatever that step is that you keep popping into your head, something that keeps nudging you to do, I highly encourage you to just take the step, have the faith to take the step, and then just be in the moment, because whatever it's supposed to be for you is there. It's waiting on you to just meet it halfway. That energy is there. And I think the reward is so much bigger than whatever trepidation or apprehension you may have over putting your foot down in a spot that you've never stood before. But the blessings are just enormous. You can't even, they're invaluable. To me, they're invaluable.
I think also too, like what I found is that, just doing our best not to allow fear to govern, basically, to keep us from keep us from doing certain things, right? Or to force us to do other things, you know what I mean? And like that's a big one, I think, right? Is fear. That's one of the big ones we have to get over. And nobody can say they're absolutely fearless 100% of the time because, right? I mean, it's just a survival instinct in part. But there's other things, but that's one of them definitely. And that those are sort of the things that I've been facing on this journey. And when we all did beginning in 2020, right? We don't want to let fear govern us. We just can't do that. And if we can stay still long enough, right, to find that peace, then we're going to come to that sound mind, that clarity. And it does take courage, right? It does take courage. Courage is 90% faith. I mean, or faith is 90% courage, right? As I was taught.
Yeah.
It takes that. So yeah, that's why fear, you want to face that. And then also to be experimental about it. Try. I mean, if I wouldn't have went, I wouldn't have had those experiences. And believe me, they were beautiful. And even like just seeing Sedona, like going into that valley and seeing that too is equally breathtaking almost, it was really beautiful. But I think Krista was one who told me, and I mean, you can feel it. It almost feels like a hub because it's like this really hidden pocket. And it's always like, okay, the folks with power definitely frequent this place or dwell here. And when I say power, I don't mean in a good way. So yeah, that definitely, right. So, but even seeing that and being able to see that, because that's what they do, right? They take what is beautiful, what is good, and they upturn it.
Yeah, they do. They do. I drove through it and we went there for the, I think it was on Sunday. We went there with the intention of maybe going to one of the crystal shops. And I kind of, I'm like, well, I'll go and see what it feels like. Because if the energy's bad, I'm not going to go in. That's how I live my life now. It's pretty cut and dry. If someone says, hey, you want to do such and such on whatever day? And I'm like, I'll let you know, because I don't know what that day is going to be like for me yet. And so we went, and the drive was beautiful, and the scenery is gorgeous. And I felt yuck when I was down there. I'm like, yeah, I'm not going in there. But I cleared it as I'm driving through. I'm like, let me go ahead and clear this area, lighten it up a little bit, you know, went all the way through to the end and then came back through and did it again because it was so dense. It just felt so, you know. So I didn't go to the crystal shop, and I felt perfectly fine about it. I felt actually better about what I did in the drive than had I done the matrixy thing and fought for a parking space and then, you know, elbowed my way into a crystal shop. I'm like, yeah, I'm not doing that today.
So what's your selection today? What do you recommend?
Yeah, it just was not going to ruin. I wasn't going to end my weekend on that note anyway. So since it's been a week or so, how are you guys doing now? Any changes, any news, any shifts that you've sensed in your being since being there?
So you want to go first? Or?
I think I'll let you go first, Shug, while I
Okay.
contemplate how I'm going to respond.
Okay. Well, here we go with a perfect example of whatever I'm thinking is coming out of my mouth. Basically, today was like a good day. I meet with my dad, try to meet with him every Sunday. He actually is the one that got me on this path, you know, and God bless him. You know, I think I talked to Nicole, you know, in messages about like having a shepherd's heart, you know, you look out for the flock kind of thing. And some people are just born with that naturally. My dad was one, you know, he was the oldest boy of 8. And so he just has that, and he just looks out. And a lot of what he has gone through, I went through. So he was always there, you know, as like this. So I met with him today, and it was interesting because three things were very parallel in our journey, even though we hadn't talked for like about a month because I'd been busy, you know, with my business and things like that. And then it was we celebrated Mother's Day a week early, so that one was off. But yeah, it was just interesting because we did talk about fear, and that's why that was so heavily on my mind. The other thing was that we talked about was, you know, how this period, right, of watching our children, right, this kind of like when they're just, you know, they're so young and they need you at that time, and they just want to be around you, and it's a lot of work, as we know, but it doesn't last forever, right? And so we get into this idea of time, right? But the beautiful thing is that helps me stay in the now a lot more, you know, by realizing that this is a very short ride. But also what it does is it emphasizes the purity, right, with which we all are in our inmost, you know what I mean? And like knowing that, and knowing these special beings, right, they have that light already. They already are in touch with it. It's this matrix that takes it away, that dulls the senses, right? And it's like, so we have to return in a sense to that, right? And this is going to sound crazy, and this is pretty personal, but since I'm here, you know, back in 2021, I just started praying for innocence to be returned to me. And I didn't even know that was a prayer you could even ask for, because I thought, well, once you're damaged goods, that's about all she wrote. You know what I mean? Now you're just in the healing process, son, you know? But oddly enough, it started to come back to me. And I don't know if you guys feel like this. You almost, in certain senses, you almost return to who you were as a child, right? Naturally. In a certain way, there's a certain beauty and poetry to that, right, that I could go into. But yeah, I mean, I don't know if people feel about Reiki sessions, but I went to one. It was really interesting. But she's like, did you feel anything when I was down at your feet? I go, well, I just felt like this warmth kind of come. And she was like, I saw you as a child, and all I felt was this incredible innocence, just like coming out. And I was like, imagine that. And here I was, right, just thinking, right, because they teach you how to be skeptical, right, cynical, critical, right, and you should always, you know, there's a reason for our brain, there's a reason why we have it, but to be slanted in that way, I don't think is the way we're supposed to be, because that's what makes people like us look like kooks, right? Because we do, in a sense, right? Because it's an opposition to, right, what we are told is a logical mind, and that is supposed to rule the day here. But it doesn't, right? Because we transform reality, right? But by the way we perceive. Perception is reality. And that's, you know, so I have people in my life that I have to work with, and I love dearly. They're beautiful souls. But that's one of the big ones, is to get them to open up their mind to that, because they're just so used to thinking everything's an attack, everything, right? So I like to focus on the positive, you know what I mean? And like we were talking about, line which is the pillars, right? They're like pillars in your life. So yeah, that has been really kind of coming back to me since the trip, right? Like, because you don't always have to have an itinerary, right? You mentioned that word, and what's funny is because I like to have a list to get through. That's just who I am. But I was so thankful not to have it, because this is sort of conducive to where we can meet in this space, right? Where everything's right. The highest two vibrations that I've heard are authenticity. Some people say that's at the top, and then love. So if we can stay in authentic love, right? For self first, right? And then allow it to really flow through, like, which is source, right? It comes through us, right? We're all one. We're all one. And returning unto that, you have to have authenticity. You have to know who you are. But how can you authentically be who you are without truth? Which is why shadow work. It's not just what we do, it's why we do it. Mm-hmm. And it's funny, I had like this deep meditative prayer. I was like saying, okay, egos, come out. So we can have this out. Like, I want to start removing you. I want to start, pulling you off the little thrones you're sitting on, right? Because there's just like areas of your life where we don't know they're attached. We just don't get that. A lot of that is, I think, part of the religious right upbringing. Sometimes we get, it doesn't address ego. That's one of the big things I think that they did. That the cabal is, they just got that out of there. So everybody thinks something's an attack. It's always coming from without. No, we need to understand what is coming from within. That's one of the big ones for me. So here, and me and my dad discussing that today, like, it was just kind of confirming sort of like the things that I've been learning. And I'm sure you've heard me, like, message you about and everything, which is like that returning to our pillars. Like, when I was a Christian, I had a pastor who said, we don't need to discover any new truths. We just need to revisit the old ones. So like the simple ones, like you were kind enough to share, right? Like that, judge not, lest ye be judged. Sounds simple, right? But coming from a Christian background as did, what about be not conformed to this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind? Like, do we forget that? And that's what this does. This journey has made me, like, break up the pieces, so to speak. But not personally because I want to do that. Rather, I'm naturally afraid or resistant to that, but allowing it to happen, right? Like wind, over a year shaping stone, right? Millennia. You just got to let it happen, right? So anyways, yeah, that's kind of, these are things that have been coming to me, during the time that we've gotten together. And truth, that's it. Beginning, ending of it all. Truth, authenticity, love.
Yeah.
Turning therein.
Beautiful. Are you prepared now, Krista?
Yeah, I'll wing it. So this was a really, it was a pivotal trip for me. It really was, it brought to my conscious awareness that I can't live 5D in a 3D reality, and I can't study and learn and integrate and practice without fully embodying and practicing the tools and the information that I'm guided to. So what does that mean? That means making some really tough personal decisions and removing people, places, things, and attachments that are no longer in my highest good, right? And what does that look like for Krista? I don't know. I've been so brought up in the matrix system that I've been told how to feel, what to think, what to do, how to be a wife, how to be a mother, how to be all of these things, and always loving everybody ahead of myself. And then if I'm lucky, I have about this much energy left for myself. Well, that needs to change, right? So now it's Krista stepping into her own power and it needs to determine what that looks like for her. And emotional attachments, they're going to hurt as they are released, but there are times when that kind of growth is necessary. I believe it's my own initiation to kind of launch me into my next stage of my development. And if it's not a healthy situation, then nobody should stay in it. And I would encourage anybody, to step out of that fear. Set boundaries for self, and if boundaries are crossed, then love yourself enough and love yourself as much as we love everybody else to say, no, I'm going to choose me now, and really own that and embody that with love and kindness, not with anger, not with jealousy, resentment, rage, but just love for myself as well as love for others. And so this trip really gave me that opportunity to clear what I needed to clear, come home, integrate, talk with higher self, confirm, and then act on it. So it's been tough, and it's going to remain tough for a little while, but that's okay, because I'm a strong woman and I'll get through it. And I've got a whole team of help around me, so I'll be okay.
Yes, you do. Yes, you do. That's beautiful. And that, to me, I mean, you both have very different takeaways from the energies that were shared over this weekend. Is it because we all gathered? I don't know. Is it because of where we gathered? I don't know. But I know that it was, that saying, you are where you're supposed to be when you're supposed to be there, doing what you're supposed to be doing. Like, and especially now, I know there are no coincidences. And the fact that the meditation came through for Krista, the messages came through for me. It was a yes before the Shug could even think about it properly. That is that soul guidance, and to have the faith enough to follow that guidance without letting your mind, because your mind does serve purposes. I get that, but it's also the most manipulated organ that we walk around with, right? And so your mind will talk you out of the magic and the miracle every chance it gets. And that's the ego. Like, no one else, no energy did this for you. We do this for us, like, this thing. And yes, self-love and self-care is something that we have, historically for a culture been taught that that's not what we do. We give, and then we give some more. And it is selfish to want to give to yourself. And that's the exact opposite of what we should do. If you have nothing left to give, you can't actually give anyone anything but vapors of your true self, your true essence. And you don't even know who you are anymore at the end of the day, because you've given it all away. So I think this is a journey that definitely, like I said before, it's very individual. And I'm happy to have a space where people are welcomed, and there's compassion and empathy and support, and we learn together, and we might trip and fall down together, but we're going to help each other get right back up. So yeah, I'm so thankful that we were all able to come together, and I'm thankful for what we were able to do individually, but also as a family. And I definitely had that family feel, because at the end of the day, our souls have been together a lot longer than our earthly forms this time. And it was exactly what it needed to be in the time that we spent together. And I'm sure it won't be the last time. And I won't mention their names, but I have to mention that Sugar has 2 amazing daughters, and they give the best hugs.
No, they're so precious.
And they have so much amazing energy that it's absolutely contagious. I want to bottle that, but in a good way.
Thank you.
And
oh yeah, hit me.
I know, right? It was such a profound thing to like see it through their eyes, as strong and impactful as it was for us. I kept looking at it kind of through their eyes and the fun that they were having and everything, and I was just like, again, that innocence, that childhood innocence and they could feel it. And even Krista's daughter, I think she's 13. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And, a 13-year-old girl, and she was like, I'm having so much fun. And it was just the energy of it. It wasn't that anybody was doing anything special or it was just the energy of it. I think it was just felt on a soul level for everyone.
Although Krista did there's something very special. In addition to you hosting, Krista did make us a baked ziti, which was lovely. And lovely. I was gonna say too, like, shout out to all the women. God bless you guys, because this movement has been, you guys have been the front line, the warriors. And so waiting for our men to continue to step up, and maybe we're just too much in our critical mind, and our cynical mind. But that is something that has really been one of the biggest blessings, is learning about the divine feminine, and then also that it's also part of me, and then having that union within, and then with my wife, and then with my family. And that is just something that I think, definitely a lost treasure of a message. And but we're getting that, and that's truth. And that is right. When I heard I think we talked about this, Nicole, when I heard the Aramaic translation of the Lord's Prayer, which is really him teaching us how to pray. The Lord's Prayer would be John 17, I think, where he's praying, saying, "Get me out of here, beam me up, Scotty. I'm out and ready to go." But that one, like hearing that, it's like hearing us talk with each other. It sounds just as spooky. And and so that's all really, really, So, but learning about him, like saying, right, mother, father.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And that would like blow a lot of people's lids, I think, and at least in the fundamentalist community for sure. And I don't want to be judgmental, but that's a big one, you know what I mean, because we've been so religiously conditioned. And that's the term that keeps coming up that I read from Sophia Code. It's like I'm still dealing with that, still dealing with that, and that's okay, all in due season. And I just keep pressing toward the mark. That's all I can do. And like you say, faith, right, one step at a time, right? And if you know what this next step is going to bring, that's not faith.
Right. That's planning.
That's the itinerary.
I kind of felt bad for like a half second. I was like, I don't really have enough planning. I'm like, I'm not supposed to plan this. This is supposed to be organic. This is supposed to be whatever they wanted it to be. Like, we're just going to be in this space. And that's when I got 100% confirmation, because everyone was just, I think at one point I asked Krista, I'm like, so how do you feel like around me, like the energy and whatever? And I won't put words in your mouth, Krista, you can speak for yourself, but I was happy with the answer. I'll say that.
Yes. No, it was beautiful energy to be around. It's powerful energy to be around, but it's very warm and comforting, and just, our souls know each other. That's just, the only way to put it. As somebody that doesn't do well in social situations, I felt right at home with all of you. It was like family getting together.
Lovely.
Yeah.
I think that's the best testament, and that we found each other on social media, but we came together in real life and felt the energy. It was always palpable, and was able to build off of that and take it home with us in a bigger capacity than it was when we got there. And so,
sorry.
No, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, that was like one of the things when you asked the question, you posed the question, did we have to be together? Did we have to be there? And I would say that we could, very easily could all done it remotely. We could all been wherever we were, you know what I mean? But it wasn't that, because like you said, it was meant to be. It was like like what I call a divine appointment, right? And it's like, there we are with no itinerary, and not supposed to have one. You know what I mean? And then, us not seeing, right? Us being here. But like seeing you, like for the first time, because I wondered about that, like, okay, what's that going to be like, as we drove up and stuff. And it was just like, yeah, there you are. Hey, come here. You can bring it in. Let's go. Knock it out. You know what I mean? And it felt the same as after we got to know each other as it did when we introduced each other.
Yeah.
And that to me is always like a lovely indication, or rather confirming indication, right? And so that, I think we did have to be there, to be honest with you, or else we wouldn't have been.
Yeah, you're right. I like that better. Well, I thank you guys. You have any last words? We'll wrap it up.
Okay, Krista, you got to go first now.
I just want to say anybody that is struggling to step into their own power, everything that we need is already deep down inside within us. Step through that fear, have that courage. We are all divine lights of love and creator source. And just step into that, because through the faith comes the abundance. And I'm just getting started. I'm looking forward to it.
Right.
Very, very nice. I would say too, like definitely, to springboard up the fear part, right? You just don't want to let that govern you. Please don't let that govern you. Again, 2020, 2021 really taught us that, and so we definitely want to remember that courage is required to have faith, and not knowing is, think about it this way. Not knowing is kind of a blank canvas, right? And we are creative beings, as Krista just said, right? That's what separates us, right? And not to make us some sort of exclusive club. It's just the promise we have to claim. We have to claim it, and that's what we do. We step into that co-creation, right? And it's yours to take, right? And it's ours to take, and it's individual. But the one thing that always powers me for it is love. True love. Let's go. And that includes letting go of fear. That includes letting go of your inhibitions. That includes letting go, unfortunately, of, that's how it started for me. I went through a very, very difficult heartbreak, but it was love that allowed me to let go for myself, because that was it. The door was open, but I had to walk, and I had prayed for that a year before it happened. But I had to have the courage to walk through it. That was just the line that came. And as I shared with you, Nicole, it was like stepping off the space shuttle, basically, and just, the space shuttle actually, you know what I mean? Stepping off the ship. Let's just say that, right? With nothing attached, no pack, no nothing, and just there I go. But isn't that the journey?
Yeah.
Right. And the glory of knowing, right, that where we go, we are intended to. And I know that sounds a little convenient. It definitely doesn't mean, oh, the heck with it, I don't have to do anything. Whatever's supposed to happen is going to happen. What it is, I forget the word that is used to describe what that, because that got sort of perverted in the 60s, I think. I wasn't around then, but that's what I was told. But what it is, it's not the act of like just being in a boat. It's the act, right, of just like, following the current wherever it takes you. It's the art of sailing. So you're just going where the current, right, where the stream is taking you. That is the difficult part to do, because sometimes it's not. We look at the circumstances. It's hard not to, but those are all the circumstances that we face in 2020, 2021. Some people endured real hardship. I didn't, you know what I mean? For me, it was really clear. 2020 was the best year of my life, and I hope that doesn't offend anybody, but it just really, really was. And it turned out to be a sneak peek of the life that I now enjoy, which is a lot of freedom, just doing my stuff at night, which rarely takes me away from my girls. My wife's included in girls. And so you're never going to know unless you make that love investment, right, toward yourself, and definitely faith, courage, always.
Yeah. Faith and courage will get you exactly where you're supposed to be. Well, I thank you so much for joining me on this roundtable. I know it was out of your comfort zones, and I'm very, very appreciative of your time and the fresh shave that Shug got.
Maybe trim some eyebrows.
That little baby face there.
Is there a bat in the cave?
Yeah, no, you're good.
Okay.
So if you guys want to join us, come to Healing Disclosures on Telegram. The link will be in the description box. And I look forward to seeing you again next time.
We can be broken down. Under a microscope, we can be reduced to a set of systems built on tiny cells. We can be broken down. Exercise tears muscles, tests every breath. Opposition challenges our strength, our belief, our desire. And we push back. We use that resistance to build strength. We use it to build stamina. We use it to understand ourselves. We use it to make setbacks our launch pads and obstacles our stepping stones. Ours is a story of recovery, of being broken down to rise up stronger, of turning stress to strength. This is more than a story of fitness. This is the story of life itself. We embrace the breakdown to enhance the buildup. We do it on hillsides, in the pool, and down city streets. We do it through fortitude, through ingenuity, and undeniably through our biology. Our cells are performance structures. While we're talking about our day, our cells are talking to each other, building, renewing, regenerating. At ASEA, this is what we know. This is what we do. So you can maintain the miracle of your body and know what you're made of. We all get broken down, and each of us faces the choice to surrender or rise up stronger.